Hello everyone, and welcome to my first movie review of 2025. I know it's a bit late, I've been kind of sick, and I still kind of am. But today we're going to talk about the Regal mystery movie that played on December 16th, 2024. And the movie was The Fire Inside. The story of Claressa Shields, a boxer from Flint, Michigan, who trained to become the first woman in her country's history to win an Olympic gold medal in the sport. When the promise of fame and fortune never materialized after winning Olympic gold, Claressa found herself in a new fight for equality, equity, and recognition.
Rated PG-13.
Ryan Destiny plays Claressa Shields, the teenage phenomenon who took women's boxing by storm. Her performance was really good. I was pretty annoyed by her in the beginning of the movie, but that's just teenagers. Ryan really captured the attitude of being a teenager, despite being 29 years old. She and Claressa are actually the same age now, even though she plays Claressa as a teenager. Her physicality was amazing. She really committed to the boxing. Overall, a standout performance for me. Brian Tyree Henry plays Jason Crutchfield, owner of a local boxing gym and Claressa's coach. He trains and supports her throughout her difficult journey. Brian gives a really solid performance. There were a few times where he really shined, but overall it was a pretty standard performance. He was the driving force behind most of the story, keeping Claressa on track. As I'm sure you already know, I'm not a big fan of sports movies in general. I feel like they all follow the same formula. An athlete or team have dreams of grandeur. There's usually struggles and successes along the way. And after one big final challenge, a happy ending occurs. And for the most part, The Fire Inside follows that same formula. It is still a standard sports movie overall. But with one caveat, Claressa wins her Olympic gold about halfway through the movie. What follows is something most sports movies don't consider: the after effects of winning. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. Claressa's win isn't the life-changing event she was expecting. She's not getting endorsements, she's not on a box of Wheaties. Women's boxing isn't mainstream enough to warrant that. Now, I like seeing this aspect of her story because it wasn't something that I was expecting from this sports movie. As someone who doesn't follow boxing, I understand why it would be hard to have Claressa as a spokesperson for a brand. While she made history in the ring, it's not a history that a lot of people will know. This leads to more expected struggles and successes, albeit in the form of recognition. While I enjoy this new direction, it felt abandoned too quickly. After just a few rejections, the story moves on. Now, this could be how it actually happened, and that fight was picked up later in life, but as a viewer, it felt cut short. This brings me to pacing. Overall, the pacing followed the story very well. The beginning of the movie was at a whirlwind pace. We see training montages, semifinals, finals, world championships, and then the Olympics. And just like how Claressa's shooting star stops after the Olympics, so does the pacing of the movie. It was abrupt, but fitting. Claressa's life is back to a crawl. After this, the movie just kind of flows along like a lazy river until the end. While it fits the story, it did start to drag a bit. As Claressa prepares for her second Olympic run, the movie's pacing hits some whitewater rapids. But then the movie ends. This new build-up felt pointless. We get some informational blurbs and then the credits roll. I would have preferred if the story continued on to the next Olympics, even if it required a time jump. This would have allowed us to see more of her struggle for recognition and equality as well. The supporting cast was fine. Most characters just have a few lines for Claressa to respond to before the movie moves on. Her mother, Jackie Shields, was played by Oleniki Adoligi. Jackie was shown to have struggles with maternity, maturity, and monogamy. She isn't very supportive of Claressa until she makes it to the Olympics. This overnight transformation, while partially self-serving, isn't really shown in detail. It felt quite abrupt, and Claressa doesn't even mention it. Now, there's one other thing I noticed throughout the film, and I'm not sure if it was an intentional detail or just something random that I picked up on. Coach Crutchfield was almost always shown drinking, and about 90% of the time, it was alcohol. Now, I don't know if this was a hint at a personal struggle or if it was just a coincidence. Either way, it happened enough for me to notice, but it doesn't really have any bearing on this review whatsoever. Finally, the visuals for this movie were kind of all over. Now, I know that The Fire Inside is a lower budget movie. I also know that recreating the Olympics would be an immensely complicated and expensive undertaking. Most boxing scenes are done in an overly dark auditorium where the crowd is heard but not really seen. We see Coach Crutchfield in the audience, but the camera usually stays pretty close, and it doesn't really angle very much to avoid showing you any of the additional audience. This happens a lot. For example, the opening ceremonies are just Claressa standing in a group of Olympians set in front of a dark backdrop, and then some lights are put on her face to make it look like fireworks. It felt like something that I would do in a video as opposed to a motion picture. Now, this isn't something that I usually complain about, but the CGI in this movie was pretty bad. It's indie, it's low budget, I get that, but some parts were just really bad. Like the background when driving, or looking out the window in China. It just looked really bad and pulled me out of the movie. Other CGI was better, but it still looked fake. It just wasn't as obtuse. The recreation of the boxing looked good though, albeit with standard sports film techniques. Some of it did look a little odd and lifeless. Overall, The Fire Inside was a heartwarming but mostly standard sports underdog film. It does stray from the beaten path by showing us what happens after the Olympics, but it doesn't do enough to make it stand out from other standard sports movies. And this is why I'm giving the Regal mystery movie, The Fire Inside, the rabbit punch score of 5 out of 10. It's a generic and formulaic film that fails to land any hard-hitting punches. However, if you enjoy sports movies, you'll probably get a bit more out of this than I did. So, did you see The Fire Inside? If so, give me some of that fancy footwork in the comment section down below. And please like and subscribe for more knockout content just like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the Olympics.